Hello, and welcome to my very first devlog of my second game, currently titled Project Codos. The game is more of a passion project for me because I've been inspired a bit by Celeste, and I kinda wanted to achieve a similar tight and responsive control for my game. So that's what I'm going for. It's a 2D platformer about a little robot that's trying to figure out what the hell is going on in the world, in which he awakened without any memory. I know, yeah, it's the usual amnesia start. Sue me. The game is basically aimed towards speedrunning. I tried adding a lot of ways to allow for fast mobility around the levels. This right now is one of the first builds I've made for this prototype. I started out with basically just refining the movement so it would feel just about right. The thing I want to do in my levels is always to make them a bit special. So the twist in my game is, as you see here, a kind of teleportation mechanic. I know that this is not the most original idea, but I am still developing my skills as a game maker, and I gotta start somewhere small. The teleportation mechanic is more of a time travel thing, where you can jump from present into the future, into the past, and all the other combinations. So there could be some sort of puzzle element with this mechanic. But I have to be careful that those puzzle elements don't break the flow of the game. For instance, if those puzzles would be predetermined, then you could just do them out of memory, over and over again. But if the puzzles would be randomly generated, you'd have to figure them every time out from scratch. So it could intervene like that with the flow of movement. But currently everything is just an idea. The story will be based on this little robot, as I've mentioned before. The gist of the story is that there's no one around you, and you have to find out what happened, and later on you find out that your kin have left this planet and are on the search for the creator of you all. It clearly can be compared to a man's search for God, and if he even exists. But I'm not really trying to make a religious game. I just thought that this premise would be interesting to explore. But of course this is just an idea and a lot can still change. And as I say it right now, I see some kind of similarities with the movie franchise of Alien. As you can see, I thought about adding a health bar, which ended up being scratched, and furthermore you see that there's not much space for the main screen. So UI was a huge part where I was thinking about how to arrange it and what to do about it, because clearly 50% of the screen taken by the UI is not really the way to go. By the way, can you see this wiggling rectangle thingy on the player? Yeah, I thought about making it a shooter, but this idea didn't really suit me since I didn't see it harmonizing with the story and gameplay. And anyway, there are a lot of shooters on the market, so maybe next time, I guess. I'd like to apologize now for the soon to be seen clips because they've been recorded in vertical mode, and yeah, that's a sin by itself. But to compensate for that, I will simply rotate them by 90 degrees. Problem solved. Jokes aside, I didn't plan on making a devlog, so yeah, and those are simply some clips I shared with friends. So that's the reason why they are like this. I originally thought about having holograms, which show you in what time the platforms are, but I discarded that idea as well because of extra time this mechanic would have cost, and I didn't really figure out how to efficiently program this. So it wouldn't be really a hassle to add them into the levels. So yeah, that was not really a thing anymore later on. Unlike many other games, mine had and still has no bugs whatsoever. After fixing some bugs, I added a companion, because a certain person in my life thought that it would be kinda cute if there was someone following you around all the time, and to have at least someone the protagonist would talk to. I was juggling between the idea of the companion being at a fixed position next to the player and the companion being slower than the player, and always moving towards you. But I noticed that when he stood at a fixed position, it would look kinda unnatural. Yes, I know we're talking about a robot. But it, like, this way, it took away from his personality, and I didn't like that. I then made the particle effect for the player when he teleports, so we'd get like more feedback, and just because it looks nice, of course. Then I started with some sprites. This is the first draft I made for Blinky, and I think it's also gonna be the last because right now I'm kind of satisfied. And he just looks really cute, and he's perfect, and he can stay that way forever. But I kinda need to talk about his cousin Blanco. Yeah, he's in the way sometimes. And as you can see, I worked at the UI again. I've put the teleportation meter and energy bar on the sides, so now it looked much better compared to the prior version, I think. And this is the first draft I made of the robot. He kind of looks like Bomberman, I've been told, because of his square head and his eyes. But I didn't really got inspired by Bomberman. My process was more like, a display on tracks, and a display is usually square, and I just wanted to give him like expressive eyes. And that's what I ended up with. I still don't have a name for him, so right now I'm gonna just call him Robot, yeah. And this is Robot, but he can go even further beyond. I thought about changing his screen to a different color, but I did stick to green. I might have been influenced by his chest's lights, and because green kinda gives off a calm vibe, in my opinion, I think. Then I also started animating him like crouching, jumping, etc. I tried to give him a cartoonish look as well, because I wondered how it looked like this, but I didn't quite like the quality of it all, and I basically just played around with it a bit, but in the end I stick to pixel art. I then added everything up together. So then I continued with some small dust clouds when he lands for more interactivity and feedback, and I even animated his small little tracks. But in the end, I wasn't really satisfied with the outcome because the player felt kinda stiff. Not because of his movement, but I think because of his animations. So I thought about removing his tracks and adding legs instead, and it turned out that legs can be very expressive. I then also made him squish when he jumps and lands, so just to a little bit more of that substance to the player's movement, that little soupçon of mouvement. I started working on the environment, decoration, lights, obstacles, etc. I worked again on the UI, and right now I arrived at the point where the energy bar and teleportation meter are around the player. I am still not satisfied to 100% with this look, because it kinda irritates me that it pops up, so this is also going to be a subject of change, I think. I also made a chat box, which explains itself. Currently, what you see is just a sandbox area where I test the movement, mechanics, and obstacles. So this is not a proper level, but there are also like those purple time coins, which are just collectibles. And in the build I have right now, there's also a timer which just counts how long you need for collecting all of those coins in this level. Unfortunately, you don't hear much because there isn't much in like the sound effects department, nor the music one. So yeah, that's definitely gonna change. Those big machine looking things you see are checkpoints. And talking about checkpoints, I've also added a death animation. But it's not really a death animation, because if we talk story wise, Blinky is kind of the reason you can teleport. And what Blinky also does is if you are about to die, he senses that and simply teleports you back to the checkpoint. If we are already talking about story, I'd like to tell you about those purple crystals you see in the dome of the checkpoints. Those are time crystals, and they are basically the core of the story and why everything that is happening to you now is happening, if that makes sense. The green ball is an energy orb, and if you hit it, it gives you a surge of energy, and the next jump you do is increased in power. If your energy bar reaches 0 and you're holding onto a wall, you just slide down and can't stay at that same place anymore without actively trying to jump to it. But before, I had it this way, that if you reach 0, you can't jump anymore. Because I made this connection that 0 energy equals 0 movement. So like logically speaking, it made a bit sense, but gameplay wise it was just horrible and really annoying and didn't fit at all. And you couldn't really recover anymore. So I changed it to the current system because the system before was abysmal. So right now we are in the future, and as you can see, compared to the prior level, this one is more sandy because obviously future means more sand. This red crystal you see here is an anti-teleportation crystal, which doesn't allow you to teleport into his area of effect, but you can teleport out of it. Makes sense, right? As you can see, I worked around that problem with the UI again by simply making it appear by the press of a button. Now, those two screens are there for optional use and don't get in your way if you don't need them. There are now indicators as well to show you if the space you want to teleport into is free or not. And this just gives you another layer of gameplay. I could use it as a puzzle mechanism or as another way to find the shortest path to the goal. But I still have to find out how I want to incorporate this into the final build of the game. And that thing we just skipped by, which I totally should have shown, was a time platform, which is active only in one timeline, and after a certain time has passed, it switches simply to the next timeline, and it rotates like this. And soon we'll have collected the 12th time coin, and that's basically all I have now. I still have to work on optimization like any other good game dev, because there are still some FPS issues, but hopefully I can get rid of those. The next things I have to work on right now are obviously the sound effects, the story itself with dialogue, and the level design. And I also have to work on the level art, because right now I have like this idea of 3 worlds: the skyscraper one, the sandy future, and the nature past. And what I thought of was to make 3 chapters, and each chapter has 5 levels. And in each chapter the art will change, but this might change as well, because I also might go for 5 chapters with 3 levels each. But that really depends on the circumstances. I'm also planning on setting up a Discord server, but all in good time, since right now I don't really have the audience to support that. Now it's just a personal matter of how to test the game. Yeah, anyway, those are my plans currently, and I guess we'll see us in the next devlog. Thanks!